Greetings, friends. It's Chapo, Monday, January 3rd, 2022. We are back in the New Year's groove. Gentlemen, how was your New Year's?
I mean, it doesn't matter if you're downtown, you're at Times Square where everyone wants to be, you're listening to Dierks Bentley and Common, or if you're just playing Mario Kart and drinking some Blue Moons, but you put on some suits because it's New Year's. It's still New Year's.
Another year gone, another year ahead of us. I think it's going to be a good one. And joining us for today's program is a friend of the show from the Episode 1 podcast. It's Andrew Hudson in the Trap. Andrew, welcome.
Thank you for having me, boys. It's good to be here. I was in Detroit for New Year's for my oldest brother's wedding.
Congratulations.
And that was wonderful. Thank you.
It looked great.
Yeah, I think weddings are kind of just, easy swag.
Yeah, it's pre-made swag. Like they even pick out an outfit for you.
Mm-hmm.
If you're friends with the right people at the wedding,
yeah,
they make a swag outfit for you. Unless you're a girl, and then they take your swag away.
Were all the Hudson men groomsmen for this event?
Only two of us.
Oh, man.
Because he has friends as well. He has friends, so it was not too big, but it was big enough, so it was good. But I didn't get laid. I didn't kiss anyone. Everyone said I have to fucking leave the wedding early, and they kicked me out. Said I was a pussy. They ripped my bow tie off. But otherwise,
sound a success, a wonderful starting gun for this wonderful new year that we're all going to experience. But no, Andrew, we wanted to get you on the show because a few weeks ago, before the new year, you posted a video regarding you quitting your job. And I thought it was a very interesting and moving video. But, for those of you who don't know, Andrew Hudson is not just the man of 1,000 characters on the E1 podcast. He is also a nurse, or were a nurse.
I'm still a nurse. I just don't work at
you didn't have
hospital.
to throw your license at your boss, throw on his desk like you're
my nurse
man.
Yeah, she's like, I want your badge. I mean, normally they do ask for your badge, so you can't go back to the hospital and sneak and be like, oh, I'm just gonna go into the Pyxis and take a wee bit of fentanyl, a little bit of this, a little bit of that, and just have a good time.
They make you turn in your feelers. You can't let a civilian have those.
I would love to see someone wearing feelers at a fucking job. That'd be so.
I think I'm going to start wearing chunky feelers so people think I'm a healthcare hero.
Kirkland Court Classics. Just walking around those white on whites all the time.
Well, I mean, before we get into it, though, I think we should take this moment to thank Medical. Thank Medical, the healthcare hero, the medical goat. Blessed Medical, Andrew Hudson. But, I guess, so leading up to your decision to leave your job, you were a nurse, a frontline healthcare worker during the height of COVID. And I'm just wondering if you could, just share a little bit about what that was like, or maybe what people don't know, or the people who are always invoking healthcare heroes, right? Clapping pots and pans together.
Yeah, they loved it. They loved this last year, and then this year they all wanted to kill us. So it was kind of flip flop. Like, what were we supposed to do? But yeah, I was working in Detroit. I worked at a hospital in Detroit last year when COVID started. And it was much bigger. It was like a 600-bed hospital. The one I just left was like 128 beds, so significantly smaller. But I worked on a cardiac step-down unit in Detroit. So it's higher acuity than a normal med surge floor, but people a little bit more sick. So you'd have 4 patients is usually what we'd get. Sometimes I'd have 5. But during COVID, when it first started in March last year, that whole hospital for 3 months was all COVID. There was 2 units out of those 600 beds that were just a clean unit. And even those were not clean. They would slip through. So we had just full beds. Everyone was just COVID. And it was just kind of the Wild West at the time because I'm reusing gowns, for shifts or using the same gown for the whole shift for every patient. If I actually got an N95, I'd have to use that for 3 shifts in a row, So we were all rationing our gear. But even before that, in March when it started, we were wearing our masks and stuff, and they're management and administration would be like, don't wear the masks in the hallways. It's going to scare people. And we're like, fuck you. No, we're going to wear our masks. And then it had to be like, obviously we have to wear them all the time. There's a lot of flip-flopping like that. And it'd be like by the day, by the hour. So we were like, we don't even know what we're supposed to do. We don't know what our policies are. Doctors would be afraid to come to the units, so I would just call them and tell them what I wanted and what I needed. I'd just like boss around all these residents because they weren't coming up there. I was still giving people Plaquenil then. Plaquenil and zinc. We're just throwing shit at the wall and seeing if it stuck. So I think people thought that we weren't like using that at all, but we did because we were like, well, we'll see. We got to see if something works.
How did the experience of how did your job change like pre and post vaccinations being available?
Well, I got vaccinated last December. I was the first person on my unit to get it, and I had some coworkers. A lot of them were like, "You're gonna get it," and I was like, "Yeah, I mean, we're gonna have to all get it eventually." I will say I wanted to talk about that just for a second because with vaccines, obviously nurses, we have to get a shitload of shots of vaccines just to get into a nursing program. So we all get shots, but before the COVID vaccines, the quickest one that was made was for mumps, and that took about 4 years. So we didn't expect there to be one last year at all. But then there's the factors of, everyone focused all the manpower and resources on that research and getting them made. That's one. All these big, farm companies being like, we want to be the ones to get this shit made. And then also I had the science explained to me, and I was like, oh, okay, well, it makes sense. So, but I understood kind of last December, even nurses being like, I don't know, like I'm kind of skeptical. Like, is this just Pfizer, getting a big grip of money? Like, we have reasons to not trust Pfizer, and I'm not like saying that as but they've had their issues in the past. We all know this. Like, pharmaceutical companies aren't exactly like fully transparent with the shit they do. So at that time, I kind of understood my coworkers being skeptical, but I was like, I'll be the guinea pig. And I was fine. Like, both shots did nothing to me, but there was a lot of hesitation amongst nurses. But then everyone eventually got them. So the stuff about losing staff because all these nurses are secretly knocking the vaccination is just, it's bullshit. It's all made up.
It seemed like with hospitals that was like way overblown. Like, definitely some nurses got fired, but it wasn't like...
It wasn't worth it to a lot of people to be like, no, I'm going to stand out. It's like, if they're quitting, they were using that as an excuse because they're just sick of, being overworked and underpaid. So with the vaccinations, I worked this year, obviously, in the ICU now. So I had a lot of people ventilated and people that died, and a lot of them were not vaccinated. The ones that were vaccinated that actually ended up in the ICU usually did okay, and I wouldn't even have them intubated. I remember one patient of mine, he was vaccinated and in the ICU, but he was on biomeds, which suppress your immune system because he had MS. So it hit him a little bit harder. But he was just on a BiPAP mask, which is just like a CPAP, but it covers the mouth too. And that's usually the step before the intubation. So there's like a bunch of different ways we give oxygen, and then it's BiPAP and then intubation. And that guy never got intubated. He did okay.
What do you make of? I've been seeing this this line crop up a lot recently, and it's the idea that all the people that are still dying of COVID, it's not because they're unvaccinated, it's because they're fat, and that the real problem is fat people in America and not vaccinated or unvaccinated.
Well, if you look at the data, now I don't know. Granted, a lot of people that I had die and didn't do well that were ventilated were big. They were big people that were 30. 34, 35 dying, and they were bigger. I don't know if that was a correlation because they do have co-morbidities, but I had bigger people that were vaccinated and they did okay. So I don't know. It's I think it's another excuse. They're just being like, oh, well, if you're not fat. I'm like, well, also a lot of Americans are fat. So
yeah, that's exactly it. Like when they're like, if you look at it, it's like only affecting fat people, which by like. You could arguably say that's like 3/4 of the country,
right?
Yeah. If it's something that is only affecting fat people, you're right. It might as well just be saying this is only affecting Americans.
I want to ask all those people, define fat, because the definition of obesity is pretty. Someone will be considered obese, and you go in the room and they're like, oh, this person is small, they're tiny, but they're overweight for their it's the BMI stuff is kind of annoying.
I had a rather unpleasant awakening about that when I got the vaccine.
Yeah, but it's going to affect the data, because people are like, oh, these BMIs. It's like that's a whole different thing. I don't know. I'm not a scientist, but if someone, so think about how someone is big, right? And I've had patients that are 730 pounds. Those people are hard to move. For one, when they're ventilated and intubated, they're restrained. And they're just laying there, and a lot of the COVID patients were proning them, so they're on their belly, and then we have to swing them, so flip them to a different position a certain amount of times per shift. If they're just laying there and then they're proned and they're that big, yeah, it's going to be harder for their body to recover from everything. You can't get them up and walk them around and prevent like pneumonia and all those things that we normally can do because they just lay there and they're on, with these bigger people especially, they're on, fentanyl, they're on propofol, they're on Versed, which is a benzodiazepine. I'm maxing them out on these at the max rates, and they're still waking up and trying to extubate themselves. So we throw on a ketamine drip. So that's 4 sedatives they're on. Some of them are on multiple vasopressors, which keep the blood pressure up. If one of those stops, their blood pressure will tank. They're going to code and die. So you're constantly going in that room and changing those bags out because a max out rate, a bag of fentanyl is going to be like 50 mLs. And when they're going at like 25 mLs per hour or more, that's really rapid. So
that's a lot.
So if one of those drugs runs out and they start waking up, that's why everyone who is intubated is restrained. So they can't go whoop. Or we just paralyze them. So we put a paralytic on, and then that helps a lot of people because their body kind of relaxes. It lets their lungs kind of stop resisting, and they would do better with the paralytic for a little bit. And then once they get a little bit better, we could take out the paralytic and then hopefully wean them off of the sedation and extubate them and move them to something like a BiPAP or even better,
Yeah, it seems like I definitely believe that people with severe weight problems would have a tougher go of this. I mean that seems obvious, but again, it's a stupid argument for not caring about it because it's so many Americans, but it seems obviously moving them, that's a pretty obvious problem that I don't think a lot of people would think about.
Anyone who's intubated is not moving. So it's I don't really know what to think. And I've had people, right, their last words before they die was, I don't have COVID, or give me the vaccine. A little too late.
Yeah, those are the ones who don't go to Valhalla. You don't get the handsome hamburger party if you ask for the vaccine right before you die. Nope, that's like pussy. If you're a Catholic who kills himself. Guaranteed hell.
I pull out a vaccine, like a syringe. I'm like, all right, but you're a bitch. You know that, right?
Yeah,
I'll save your life right now with this vaccine.
That's the equivalent of being a Jew with a JD but didn't pass the bar. But yeah, it seems for a much bigger person, this is just an extremely layperson's interpretation. But COVID definitely it puts a lot of stress on your organs. But I don't know, I noticed a lot of cops dying of it, and cops outside of the high risk age range.
Well, cops are notoriously healthy, so right. It's so strange.
Right. Well, they do the healthiest thing, which is they take anabolic steroids and don't work out. And it just it made me think they're probably even if they're not morbidly obese or high body
no, they
fat,
don't
whatever.
have to be. They don't have to be massive.
Right.
Someone with diabetes is going to have a hard time fighting this as opposed to someone who doesn't have diabetes. And people will go in with all these things wrong with them that they didn't even know they had before COVID. Then they get hospitalized because of COVID, and it's oh, shit. Now you have all these other things. You see a lot of patients, the COVID puts them in the hospital, but they're staying longer because these other factors are getting affected, and they're going to start declining and eventually go into multi-organ failure. It's even if they didn't have COVID, these are unhealthy people because they're Americans.
Yeah, no, yeah.
My issue with COVID, and I've said this before, is we've been in a health crisis long before COVID. When I was working in Detroit, I'm taking care of most of my patients were Black, and a lot of them are poor, have diabetes, which they're more likely to get it, being Black because of what we've done to them, and other minorities in this country. So you have a guy who's 32 and he has no legs and he's missing multiple fingers because he has diabetes and he can't control it. Someone that has insurance and a decent job has a difficult time with diabetes. My dad is a nurse practitioner and lost a toe this year because he ignored a scrape on his toe too long. And he knows better, and he should, and he has the resources. Think about being a young black person in Detroit who has no resources, no way to get to appointments. They don't have a way to get their insulin. All these things that go into that complex disease are going to affect these things. And they're going to eventually have heart failure. Their kidneys are going to go, and diabetes, once it gets to a certain point, it takes everything, and you die. Those people they would die young, and it would be like heartbreaking for me. I was like, what are we doing? And it comes back to, obviously needing universal health care and all this other stuff. So it's definitely like COVID is just like the catalyst for so much to me. It was just it's the same thing with the staffing problems. It's just a catalyst, like the straw that broke the camel's back.
Yeah. Something really interesting that you said to me earlier last year, around kind of this time last year, was that the feeling you got, like having worked in Detroit and then in other places, was that you felt like it was as if we lost a war, but the war had been lost decades ago, and you were still seeing the consequences of it.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
because we make money off of it still.
Right. It's
literally like Afghanistan.
Like everything you just talked about with like just the consequences of like food deserts, of like a lack of health infrastructure.
The community health issues are like a huge problem.
Yeah.
What are you going to tell? Are you going to tell some poor black mom who's raising multiple kids alone, works 3 jobs, oh, you should garden? Get the fuck out of here. Yeah. She's going to buy her kids McDoubles because they're cheap and they taste good because everyone loves McDonald's. And then that's all they're going to want to eat because that's what they're used to and that's what they know and that's what's available. I love McDonald's. So if like that's all I'm going to want, you do that for decades and decades and decades. And we've been doing this obviously for hundreds of years to minorities. I mean, Native Americans, Hispanics, they're more likely to have like cardiac issues and a number of other things compared to, like other ethnic groups. And it's because of that. We've displaced them and put them in poverty and they have to eat crap that's easy to make or easy to get and it tastes good. That's just like, I mean, one of the few things that's wrong, but I think that's what has happened is we've done this to them, and no one cares about it.
Yeah, but something you just said before that about how people would come in and have this problem that they've had for decades and not realize it. It's another thing. Like very few Americans now have like a family doctor that they see like every 3 months or even once a year. And so it seems like you probably saw a lot of people who just
I don't even have health insurance right now.
Yeah.
And Andrew, to your point about like the disparity and health outcomes and like divided by race in this country, I learned a astonishing fact the other day that I had to look. I didn't believe it, but black people in America have a higher rate of mortality from skin cancer than white people do. And I was like, I wasn't even aware black people even got skin cancer, which is like the most treatable form of cancer. But it's just a matter of like not having access to a doctor to just
education
be like, hey, could you take a look at this? Yeah. And then it'll like metastasize and it'll get to the point where it is fatal, which is usually not the case in like, most skin cancers that, I was aware of or whatever. But like all these things, like, I mean, talking about COVID in particular, like everyone has complaints or fixes or things that like, should or could have been done. But like to me, it just seems like overall, like the only real solution to any of this is a national healthcare system, and it should have been done 30 years ago.
Right.
And like I mean, if we could do it now, like maybe it'll save us like from the next pandemic. But like it's just like the perfect confluence of like the inability of this country's health, political and social infrastructure to deal with any kind of collective problem like a respiratory spread viral pandemic.
We had no plan. I knew last March, I told my coworkers in Detroit, I said, if we can't get gear that we need, if I can't get a mask to prevent myself from spreading this to coworkers or other patients while I'm taking care of a patient who I actively know has COVID, I know they have COVID and they're dying of it in front of me. If I can't get my gear, then what's the point of all the other things put into place, lockdowns and mask mandates? Like, what was the point if we can't do it like right there on that,
at the tip
it made
of the
no sense
spear,
to me.
yeah.
Like either Trump should have done like a serious like 2-week martial law lockdown, but who knows? That probably wouldn't have even worked either. But that's like the degree they would have had to go to for us to not be fucked. But after that, I was like, no, we're screwed, and we are all like over everything at that point, or by like the summer, because if they're not helping us, then we're all just fucked. If they don't care about us, and that's kind of frustrating. The past 2 years is you have people that. I'm not going after other workers and stuff because it sucks that people have to work in grocery stores with all this shit going on. But people would be like, oh, yeah, I know how you feel. I have to work in this. I have to work in that. I was like, it's not the same. It's not close to me because they'd be like, well, these customers don't wear masks. I'm like, my patients that have COVID don't wear masks. Like, what am I supposed to say? But they would be like, oh, yeah, it's so scary. I was like, you're not seeing the people die. You're not watching them die. You're not bagging people up every night. Or multiple times a night. People don't understand that these patients, when they die, I have to call the coroner and give them a full rundown of the pathology and everything that was going on with them and the cause of death. And then I have to call Donor Alliance, which is the donation organization that sees if they're qualified for being an organ donor. They would call me, like, I had one time they called me like 8 times in one shift, and I gave the same information each time. So when someone dies, you have to do all that. You have to call the family and talk to them. You have to prep the body and bag it up. That's probably 3 to 5 hours of your time when you also have like 2 other patients that are probably also going to die too. So like you're doing all this basically social work while trying to keep these people alive and change strips, talking to family on the phone, doing all this stuff. The doctors, I mean, I love my intensivists in the ICU, but even the doctors would be like, oh, yeah, you just fill out the information, say the time of death. Like, I would declare the patient. All this stuff that we're doing, it's not the same as people working for UPS or being in the grocery store. I'm sorry. It's a different thing, but people don't know that because they can't see it. We can't film it, and you can't see what actually goes down. I wish I could have like a giant waiver, be like, all right, for this shift, all these patients get their shit released or whatever. We can film everything and show a whole shift. I got a GoPro on because like people don't understand like what we had to do or what we do every day. And then the other thing with COVID patients is the ones that were really sick and need hospital beds. They're displacing other medical patients that don't have COVID who need care too. So we'd see those patients decline because they'd be displaced. They're not getting the treatment they need. They decline. They tank. They die too. So there's a lot of deaths that are related to COVID indirectly because those people got mistreated because of COVID patients taking up beds, which annoyed the shit out of me with people that won't get vaccinated. I'm like, I'm looking at you, you cop. I know you're going to end up in a bed and you're probably going to die, but you probably wouldn't have been in that bed that long if you got a vaccination. And now that guy who needs that heart transplant is like dead too. So it's a big clusterfuck. We wouldn't know where to put patients, or we'd have to turn them away.
I have a question about what you just said about you calling the coroner. Is that like standard? That is like it seems like there are a lot of things that they have nurses do that is it's kind of a consequence of like just stretching like one job into several, which we do with everything in this country, but like. It seems like especially hospitals, and is that just like another thing that we let, was a ticking time bomb?
Yeah, it's on us. I mean, we also have to ask the family, do you want an autopsy? And we have to go through a bunch of other stuff with that. And it's like, usually we know how they died, and we'll have the doctor, like most of the time they'll agree to no autopsy because we know why they die. But it's just another thing that's just like placed on us. It's time consuming. We don't have the time to do these things. And that's why, I was actively helping kill people. I've thought about this for 2 years. I've legally killed, dozens of people, I feel like. People be like, no, it's not your fault. It's a system. But I'm like, yeah, but I'm the one that felt their pulse stop. I'm the one that watched them stop breathing. I'm the one that bagged them up. And I worked with them for 3 days, and they were getting better. And then this happened. So they could say it's not my fault, but it, to me, will always feel like it was my fault.
I mean, I don't know how I would carry that around with me. I mean, it's just, like when you were a nurse, I mean, like you see the reality of life and death every day up close, and like you are responsible for it, and
right.
in the sense,
and we know going into that dies, with that job, we know we're going to see people die in that job, but it was it's so much. And when you're, like I said, all that stuff that goes into what happens when someone dies, there's also things like if we do, another funny thing is I would have to call the donation people if the people have COVID. I already know since they had COVID, they're not going to qualify and they won't take that patient, but they still make me go through all the steps. It's like, why the fuck am I doing this? You're wasting my time. So there's that. Or if they do qualify to be a donor and there's someone that's brain dead, we will declare brain death on someone who is, say, they're under cardiac arrest. They've been under CPR for too long. The longer you're arresting, even if we get your pulse back and you're alive technically, your brain has lost so much oxygen, you become a vegetable. So there's ways we can test to see if there's any neural activity. When they're declared brain dead, we can still use all their organs, though. We can keep their body alive, and then we'll eventually turn them over to organ nurses who will come in and take over the treatment. Then they start hunting around hospitals around the country, around the world, being like, who needs these organs, essentially. So they'll take over. But that's a whole other thing, too, is transferring that patient over and working with those nurses. So it's pretty complicated, and it's tougher when it's a weekend night and it's 3 a.m. and you're like the only one around.
It seems like the American hospital system has like everything that people like said Soviet bureaucracy had, but then just so many specific stupid American things. Like the filling out the form for organ donation when you know they died of COVID. That's fucking insane. I'd imagine there's like a million things like that just no one knows
there
about.
is.
I'll stay for the record here. If I die for any reason, and I'm including like plane crash in this, I want an autopsy done. I want all the guilty parties. I want everything identified, cataloged, and the guilty people punished.
So you can sue me and get me fired.
Yes,
that's why I wanted when people would be like, "Oh, we want an autopsy." I'm like, "Why, Karen? You get fired. Your fat cop husband had a heart attack. That's what happened." Like people are gonna listen to this and think I'm like inconsiderate or like not compassionate, but it comes with the territory. All nurses talk like this, and while we're backing people up, we make pretty bad jokes. So I know it's like edgy and stuff. It sounds edgy, but I'm saying like that's the reality. I think I made a joke on Twitter, and people were like scolding me about something, and I was like, "What the fuck are you doing? Like, you're sitting at home whining about how you have trauma from working from home for a year."
Yeah,
get the fuck out of here.
Yeah, no, Andrew, it was me and you talking to each other. And we were talking about like euthanasia, and then all those like everyone who like jumped off the porch to become Catholic when they were 25 yelled at you.
No. What I said is that it's difficult trying to convince a family sometimes to have like when they're the proxy to make them a full code into a DNR DNI. And then that guy was like, "Make them?" And I was like, "All right, motherfucker, shut up." He knew what I meant to. Just being a little weepy scold. Life is sacred, blah blah blah. It's like, all right, then you come tell me this person has a chance and some miracle is going to save them when their brain has nothing up there.
Well, Andrew, another thing you mentioned in your video, and like this is something that I've spoken to like other people I know in the nursing profession, which is, a big thing that's happening right now in terms of like the job is this phenomenon of travelers, hospitals hiring essentially like fulfilling staff on like short-term contracts, but like they're sort of like flown in from like out of state or even out of country, and they end up working there for a short term, but are making like something like 3 to 4 times what the people who are like actually employed in that hospital are making. Could you talk about that phenomenon and like, what that's like? I mean, is there anger towards these people, or is it just a fact of the nature of what the hospitals and the medical
no,
sort of field
we don't.
is like
we
right
never
now?
have any anger towards them because I don't blame any of them leaving their jobs to go make some more money that they deserve to make. So people will be like, they're scab nurses, and I'll be like, I mean, it's kind of different in my opinion. So those nurses, like, there's not any like animosity towards them, and they're all great nurses, and I would be happy to help them. I had a lot of rough nights where we had to help each other. They're any other nurse, but I don't think they're people like, I think at the outside think of them like as scabs or something, like I said, but you don't view them that way. The frustrating part is when you're doing more work than them and they're making like 3 or 4 times more than you. It's frustrating because the full-time staffer should be getting that too, The reason why travel nursing started was to incentivize people to go to rural locations, so we would have nurses there, which makes sense. Like, it made sense, but now it's everywhere in cities, and with COVID, it's like the normal way to do it. And I think the way it works is a hospital, these travel agencies will get a big contract from a hospital, and then they don't have to pay. It's not permanent, so they could pay these nurses, then they're gone. And I think over time, it'd be a lot cheaper to just pay your full-time staff and let them, unionize. We all know that's the big no-no, especially when the hospital I just left was for one of the biggest health systems in America. It's a big private, business. And people be like, well, you can unionize private. I was like, yeah, I'm going to unionize the giant privatized system. Like, it's frustrating. People just be like, just unionize. Like, yeah, it's just so easy. Takes some people 15 years to get a union, but I'll just, walk in. We're union. Don't fire us. Put my foot down, walk in like Daffy Duck. Listen. What? No, I'm just going to quit. I'm not going to keep.
Well, I mean, like you said, in terms of why are more Americans dead of this fucking disease than any other country in the world? And it's a lack of a truly universal healthcare system, but it's also a function of what you were saying. Like all these problems are exacerbated by the people who are most responsible for being the thin thread that still stitches together the basics of having a civilization. It's throughout the pandemic largely been the responsibility of nurses who, even before the pandemic,
it's bartenders. The vanguard.
Insanely overworked and underpaid. And these shortages are happening because a lot of people, including you, are just simply, I've had enough of it. And I'm wondering if you could just share what brought you to that decision, because I think one of the things that was moving about your the video you posted was about how much you like doing your job and how much you care for the patients that you have. But the thing you said is that I can't do the job anymore because they've made us all bad at the job that we know we like and we can be good at.
Yeah, that's definitely it. We worked hard in school. School for nursing is not easy. Anyone who does it will tell you that. But you keep going because it's something you want to do. When staffing is the way it should be, it's pretty rewarding. You can see progress and you can see people get better and be discharged. But like I said, when we're stretched so thin every single night, when I'm going into a shift and I got 3 patients right off the rip every shift, and some of the patients that I would have needed 1-to-1 care. They need just me and that one patient, and I have 2 others. Someone's going to die, and it's on me. And then doctors get, pissy at me. Oh, you missed these labs at this time. And I was like, well, actually the laboratory canceled them for some reason. They're getting pissy at me. And I'm like, why don't you walk your ass over here and help me out with these patients if you don't want to see them tank in, code before your shift is over? And that's not super common. Most of the doctors I worked with are great, and they're just as worn out, if not more worn out, because they have to do a million things and, think about, so many patients. But it's like people, people will start lashing out at each other. It's like, why aren't we going after the executives for this shit, So I couldn't do it, at least bedside for a while. I can't do it anymore. It's too tiring for, $35 an hour. They're exploiting, what I can do. And I'm just, signing death papers over and over. And it's like, no, they're just dying. Why am I here? If they're just going to die, why should I come to work? And I mean, thankfully I have episode 1. So I kind of had that to fall back on, for the moment. But yeah, I mean, I'm gonna have to get another job eventually. I don't know where I'm going to go. There's a lot of different avenues in nursing, which is very convenient, but I don't want to be in the hospitals right now. And I hope other people are able to do the same. I hope they have spouses that can support them, or some way that they can quit. And I want to see nurses quit and walk out. I want to see these companies and these executives realize that they need us and we don't need them. They're going to have to deal with the lawsuits. They can't go into that room. They don't know how to do shit. I had a chief nursing officer, one of the executives, who didn't even know how to do vitals. And it's like, dude, don't come to my unit when I have 3 patients with a cart full of granola bars. Like, get the fuck out of here. He like came by and he's like, is there anything we could do for you? And I was like, yeah, you could take my patients and I could go home. And he's like, oh, I don't think it'd be much help. And I was like, I know, dickhead, get the fuck out of here.
What a healthcare hero.
These are the people that like are so excited about their bonuses at the end of the year. And it's like, no, they're just suits and they don't know how to run. They don't know what is needed to run a hospital. I also had people like commentating. I think I like saw here and there, like the Majority Report covered my video, and I saw someone being like, "Yeah, well, when the ICU is full, those ICU patients are in the ER." And some guy's like, "I'm an ER nurse. It sounds like he's complaining about 3 patients. It's kind of a lot, or something like that." And I was like, first of all, dude, I got pulled to the ER all the time. Whenever there's a code or like a level 1 trauma, the ICU nurses would go there. Or I'd get pulled to the ER just to work there because they were short staffed, and I'd go help them and do things that they didn't know how to do. So it's not, what drove me nuts is I saw people being like, well, I do this at my job and blah, blah. It's like, it's not a competition. Like, we're all getting fucked over. That's my point. Like, it's not a ER versus ICU or the floors or nursing home nurses or like any of that. It's like, no, we're all getting fucked over right now. That's what I'm trying. They want us to fight each other and get pissed off and say like it's so-and-so's fault. But it's just, it's always the higher up as usual because they don't want to pay anyone.
You're totally right. But I should just admit right now, I found an ER doctor who lives in my neighborhood and I shot his front door a bunch of times because they were yelling at you. I thought they were all like together. I thought it was a big thing.
It's okay. Well, they are pretty lazy.
Yeah, I mean, fuck doctors anyway. Pay doctors less.
Yeah, spread the love. Give us some. Give me a piece.
Fuck doctors. Support nurses.
Well, I mean, here's another thing. Like, I think like basically over the last like month or so, I feel like half of everybody I know has gotten COVID or at least tested positive for COVID, and who knows what that means anymore. And overwhelmingly, because like they're all vaccinated, it was not a problem. It was like a couple days of having a mild cold when you stay in, and then you're fine. So, like, I'm just wondering, like, you've been through the height of it and now going into 2022. I mean, like, where do you think we're at now with, like, in terms of people's, this sort of individual social responsibility matrix that people put themselves through in terms of their own behavior and judging others at this point? Like, at this state in the pandemic, like, as it regards masks, vaccines, like how much emphasis should individuals be placing on their own behavior and then also like other people's behavior at this point?
Well, you're laying it all on me, Will.
Yeah.
Just one nurse.
Yeah,
honestly,
and whatever you say here, it dictates what's going to happen.
Good. Okay. Yeah, I mean, I'm just a nurse. I mean, obviously no one really knows, but I got vaccinated like one of the first people to get vaccinated at my hospital when it became available last December. When there's mask mandates, I wear my mask. If there's not a mask mandate, like in Michigan, everyone was walking around without them on. And I'm like, okay, I don't get pissed at people for not wearing a mask. I'm like, most people are vaccinated, and especially if they're vaccinated, I'm like, I'm not going to be freaking out. And I think the people that there's like the both sides that annoy me, because there's the people that won't get vaccinated. They bitch about wearing the mask and freak out because they want attention. And then there's the people like the liberals that love to scold people about all this stuff constantly. And they want to keep this charade going up because they like sitting at home, and they like this whole theater of the past 2 years. They love it because they get to be self-righteous all the time. And I've had people scold me, like a nurse that's been working in it 2 years, for things like that. Like, oh, you don't wear your mask, or like, you didn't wear your mask here, or just like I've tweeted things that people get pissed at me. And I'm like, what do you want me to do? I mean, I don't know what to say. Like, we can't sit at home forever. Everyone should be getting vaccinated. And if there's a place, I mean, most places are private institutions. If they have masks, or if a county has a mask mandate, like mine has one right now, I'll wear my mask. But also, you go into a restaurant wearing your mask, you sit down and you take it off. Like, big fucking deal. Like, it's I don't know. Like, I don't know what to say. Like, I don't know what people want. I think they make it out to be a bigger deal than it is on both sides, The scolds love it, though. The scolds love to be, oh, so you just want everyone dead. I'm like, well, yeah, maybe. What are you going to do about it?
I mean, yeah, every time I'm in the airport, I just feel like, if Captain Trips happened, I'd be okay with that.
I mean, I just flew back last night from Detroit, and I still think it's kind of funny that we all, like, I mean, the airport's different because I guess you're so close to everyone, but it's like, we all got it, right? You know, we all got our vaccines or we all got COVID, right? And those who are going to get it that didn't get vaccinated, I mean, I'll see you guys. I'll see you. I won't see it at my work anymore.
Yeah, we'll see you at work, but yeah.
The airport's tough because it's like, I mean, yeah, on one hand, like, yeah, everyone's close together. A lot of them are like shittily ventilated.
And people are disgusting.
And it's also like, yeah, I mean, you're already just getting like the dumbest person in the county the airport's in to just like molest you in front of your family and blast you with x-rays. So like, what's another thing kind of?
Yeah. I mean, funny enough, I forgot my license when I flew. In Colorado, we have the digital license and an app that even like the police will accept. So I could use that a lot here, but I forgot my actual license to fly. They still let me through, but they walk me ahead and do the advanced screening where they go through all my shit. They swab my shoes and all this stuff. And I was like, by the way, those were my work shoes, so you might find like some fentanyl or nitroglycerin on there. Just saying.
I'm a drug dealer.
I spilled that shit all the time. Like I broke a bottle of propofol, it shattered all over the floor one night. Like I don't know, like it happens. But and she's like, oh, well, we don't take that into consideration. We don't take like word of mouth. I was like, I'm just telling you, if you see it pop up, I'm just telling you.
I think there should just like. I mean, like the thing with airplanes is funny because it's like it's a tube where everyone's breathing the same air for like sometimes 6 hours. But then same thing that happens with everything else where it's like but you can take it off to eat peanuts.
Yeah.
I don't know. I
and also some guy is like say next to you wiping his boogers all over the seat or just like I don't know secretly coming under a blanket. Like people are just gross in general. Like I don't know. Like a mask doesn't make me feel any better.
It's the mess building not in airports, but like on the airplane, which like Felix you said is a hermetically sealed soda can where everyone's breathing their same farts and they're like, okay.
No mask is going to make me feel better. You kind of it's a socially accepted thing. Like we're just kind of all in this nasty miasma with each other's farts for hours on end.
I think like that's why they should let me like. You should be able to like create a counter cloud of smoking or vaping.
Yes.
You should be able to smoke cigars, but only cigars on planes.
Yeah. And you should have to wear a suit.
Tuxedo to fly. People don't dress up no more for the airport.
But no, just the idea that like, yes, you can pull your mask down to eat or drink. And I was just thinking over the holiday when I was traveling, if I buy enough food at Hudson News, I can stay eating for the entire flight. Eating and drinking and have my mask down the entire 3-hour flight.
Just buy a 12-inch sub and just take your time. So I don't know. The social stuff has been really tiring for me. And like I was saying earlier, like the people that talk about, oh, my job is scary too. I was like, no, I feel bad that people, they have to do their jobs and they had to deal with all this shit the past years without hazard pay. But I also have not had a cent of hazard pay in the past 2 years. And we're the ones with this crisis in the labor issues. We're the ones that see the deaths. That's like the actual like end of it all. And that's what everyone's so terrified about COVID anyway, is the deaths. But I'm seeing this at work and I'm seeing these people die over and over again. And I realize no one really cares about the death. They're just going through the numbers every day so they can all argue and scold each other and have their theater. And it's not helping anything. It doesn't. None of these motherfuckers on Twitter or work from home people have helped me do my job. The people that fearmonger constantly all day long, they made my job harder. So I don't know. I hate everyone.
What do you think about my idea though? I mean, I don't think this is the only idea that can end the pandemic. I have another idea. It's a movie idea. But what if like just for the airport, there's an evil airline? Where there's not just like no masks, there's like no security check, and it's just like whatever happens.
You have to drink like Four Loko.
Yeah.
On the flight, they force it on you.
Yeah, and it's like you can have like
there's a lottery where someone gets thrown off the plane.
Yeah, if you buy 3 seats, you can pick someone to get thrown off.
I don't like the way that guy looks. His eyebrows, they suck. Throw him off.
I think that would be kind of sick.
Several of the planes are swagged out convertible models. You really get that wind rushing through your hair.
All right, my idea is that we bring back Barack Obama. We have like this giant waiver. We let him come back, and we could post the meme where he says, "Hold up, I got this." It'd be awesome.
Oh yeah, but he has gray hair now, and it's like it's even.
Oh, Silver Fox.
Yeah, it's even sicker because it's like he already had it. That other
Epic
time.
Obama.
Him and his new vice president, Bruce Springsteen, renegades.
Do you think they fucked?
I'm on fire just thinking about that. That's all I'll say.
Well, I'm not saying like they're gay. I'm saying like who knows what drugs.
It's
they
like
have
Spartans.
access to. Yeah, exactly.
Like American Spartans. They're going poggers on each other's holes.
Yeah.
And it's like being a patriot.
Well, they both took GHB, and they're like, "What if we just did this one time and like didn't tell anyone?"
I think it's fine.
Yeah.
Speaking of being patriotic and going poggers on each other's holes, let's close out this episode and start the new year with a reading from Rod Dreher. Yes, folks, I know I feel bad dipping my pen into this inkwell maybe one too many times, but Rod just keeps coming out with more fire. And here he is in the American Conservative talking about going poggers.
Do you think he'll miss?
People's souls.
I think he might miss this time. We'll see.
I don't know.
No way. No shot.
So this is Rod. The headline is "Queer as Volk," and like this sort of interesting background to this is that he is talking about. I mean, the online right over the last week or so has had to do some serious soul searching. And by that, I mean not because one of their most fervent reply guys killed 5 people, but that one of their most fervent reply guys also knew that guy and did cuck pornography at one point in his career. So they have a lot to process right now. All right, so this is Rod Dreher writes, major craziness going on right now in a certain niche corner of the right. Do you know who Jack Murphy is? I barely knew of him until I saw him pass by the hallway at the National Conservatism Conference recently. He's a striking figure. Very tall, bald, with a dramatic beard. Someone explained to me that he is a big figure in the manosphere and fronts a hypermasculine philosophy that at one point included polygamy. Here is a link to his self-description on his website, Jack Murphy Live. Excerpt. Men are being told that they can't and shouldn't take what they can because of patriarchy, because of feminism, because of the progressive mindset that the state is there to provide. The world always needs a villain, and today that villain is the white straight male who knows what he wants and is unafraid to get it. Be the villain. Embrace it. Be the villain so you can be the hero to your sons, daughters, and lovers, and eventually your community, nation, and the world. I was wondering why Jack Murphy, real name John Goldman, turned up at NatCon, but someone told me that he is a Lincoln Fellow at the Claremont Institute. Someone else told me that they thought he had recently turned to Christianity, but weren't sure. Is he still a polygamist, I asked? My interlocutor did not know. Why is Jack Murphy in the news this week? In part because Lyndon McLeod, the far-right mass shooter in Denver who wrote novels under the name Roman McClay, was allegedly a member of Murphy's private brotherhood called the Liminal Order.
Ended on my street, by the way. That shooting ended on my street.
Yeah, so this guy was like a manosphere hanger on and self-published novelist, and then he just decided to kill his tattoo artist or something like that, and 5 other people.
He's targeting women, then he got owned by a woman cop.
Yeah, no, he got domed by a female.
Another person who will not see Valhalla.
Yeah.
I think that some of the people he killed, he wrote in that book about killing. So the secret is real.
It was a
I guess we all should have read that book. We would have known it was coming.
It was in a tattoo parlor, right?
Yeah.
One of the places, it was like multiple crime scenes.
Well, didn't the FBI drop the ball on him? Just
No.
a million.
That doesn't sound right.
No, are you kidding me?
Yeah, you're probably right.
No, apparently he
also-
had some pretty close interactions with FBI agents.
I know.
Weird. Weird how that keeps happening. How
this nerd is
everybody
harmless.
who shoots more than a few people has interviewed FBI people right beforehand or has had extended contact with them.
They just thought his book was good. Nah, just keep writing, brother.
Do you ever think that maybe just a government and agency can be unlucky?
Yeah,
Yes.
just give another chance.
So yes, his brotherhood, the Liminal Order. Rod writes, what's this liminal order all about? I suspect we will be finding out soon. Plus, a week or so, Murphy went on a chat show and was asked about an article he once wrote speaking of the pleasures of being a literal cuckold. He wrote about farming his girlfriend out to other men for sex. Jack Murphy did not appreciate the question. Don't click on this at work. He dropped several F-bombs. It turns out that back in 2015, Murphy, who now sells himself and his masculinist advisory services as an extreme Chad, wrote a piece extolling the erotic pleasures of being a beta cuck. You can find this online. I'm not going to link to it. Some Redditors got busy digging and found that Murphy and his girlfriend had acted in a self-made porn broadcast in 2019. In the film, there is apparently a sequence in which the super-masculine Murphy impales himself with a plastic phallus while simultaneously pleasuring himself. This is not a rumor, alas. I stumbled across the image online and can't unsee it.
I saved it just in case it gets deleted for journalistic purposes.
I can't unsee this image that I made my background. It's really
that
crazy.
He stumbled across.
He stumbled across after spending 3 hours on Reddit.
I want to. I wonder what would happen if I showed Rod Pants Dude. I think Pants Dude is like too nice. He has like too good of an aura.
Yeah,
it would be like giving garlic to a vampire.
I want to take Rod Dreher to the naked barber. Just let him get a fade, you know. And he'd be like, "This artistic performance by this wonderful barber."
I can't get the image of my out of my head of me grabbing the barber's dick.
We've all fantasized about it.
I don't think the Pants Dude would be really Rod's type because earlier in the piece, remember he described running into him at the the NatCon convention, and he described him as a striking fellow with like an amazing beard and big muscles.
Oh yeah.
He was awesome.
Yeah. Pants Dude is like unassuming looking. He has like a common genotype, but then he has two amazing talents, I would say.
He's got his own rod.
He really does. That thing's a fucking dinger. That thing looks like a caveman club made out of flesh.
It looks like it's like a baby holding an apple, a baby's arm. It's just like, you imagine walking through your apartment, like, I hope he doesn't have like a bunch of vases and stuff. It's like, not again. He pants himself and just knocks over his Criterion Collection Blu-rays.
Well, we said I think everyone agrees the funniest idea is like a scientist like knocking over his science shit, like his beakers and stuff with his heart on.
That's actually how COVID leaked from the Wuhan virology laboratory.
I know.
He was trying to do the pantsuit video, and he knocked over a beaker that was labeled COVID-19, do not touch, saving for later.
Pants Dude.
I just think it'd be tight if he kind of put some. He took his dork and dipped in some water. They took some crystal glasses and went woo with his dinger like around the top, and he played like a symphony. Or like he had like a Prince Albert and just like clink 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 clink.
His xylophone.
Ding, 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 ding.
Oh my god, he could finally make Ben Franklin's most bullshit invention, the glass harmonica. He could actually do something cool with that.
You think that's bullshit?
Yeah,
it's actually better than the light bulb, but whatevs. People sleep on Ben Franklin's inventions.
I don't really. Someone probably made the Lazy Susan like 5,000.
He also invented MDMA. People don't know that.
That is true.
Ben Franklin invented fucking widows because they know what they're doing and they're unattached.
Yeah, he loved MILFs. He had wrote that letter to his younger friend of being like, they're just so grateful. It's like, damn, Ben. And I like how the French even wanted to dress like him. I'm like, that guy? They're like, yeah, he has the best snuff. He looks like a boss. He has the best hair. We all want to be this man. And Thomas Jefferson wanted to be too.
Yeah, it was the only time when they did there was like a 100-year period where everyone respected epic fat guys.
Yeah, it was like he was the Josh Gad of the Revolutionary War.
The grunts and squeals of the Constitution were provided by Ben Franklin. So it says, back to Rod here. It says, so now we see that a far-right public figure whose entire personality and business model was promoting himself as a villainous straight white male is rather more ambiguous about his straightness and his masculinity than he would have us know. Murphy has a history of sadistic writing and messaging. In 2015, he informed his readers that feminists need rape to solve the problem of man's natural tendency towards dominance and women to passivity and submission. And now there are images going around of his self-sodomization in a porn movie that he and his girlfriend did for money. A decade ago, Johan Hari, the gay left-wing British journalist, wrote an essay exploring the connection between homosexual men and fascism. It will be interesting to see how the Jack Murphy story plays out. Rod is hoping for more images. Looks
My
like
DMs
one more
are open for any other sleuths out there.
And he goes, looks like one more piece of evidence for the Weimar America thesis. Now, what I like about this Rod article is, I mean, obviously the fact that he said, I clicked through all the links and cannot unsee what I saw. But it's just like in his mind, he either pretends to or doesn't get that it's actually not surprising that someone who's like a fucking bald, bearded muscle man who talks constantly about masculinist supremacy would enjoy the pleasures of, as he describes it, self-sodomization. It shouldn't come as a surprise, and in fact, I think it makes you more likely. But I mean, I do like that this whole thing was just like a side note to the other guy that murdered 5 people. And the thing that there's like a big controversy is just like, oh wait, this other guy stuck a dildo up his ass one time. We need to have a reckoning in our own community.
Wait, hold it. Yeah, hold the phone. Like, okay, that guy murdered somebody. He was just a bitch. But this guy.
Well, I do. What is interesting about this article, and maybe it's like, you know, serial killers who kind of want to get caught, is that like Rod writing an article about far right, like near like fascist guys, as he characterizes them, who are into gay stuff, and it's like, oh wait, you mean not you? You're like you're these 2 guys, but not you.
No, it turns out that like Jim Jones before him, Rod Dreher is the only straight man in the world.
Yeah.
Well, there we go. That's a fun little bit of Rod to kick off the new year. But I guess we'll leave it there for today's show. I want to thank Andrew Hudson for his uncensored his uncensored view behind the veil
Uncut.
Of the American hospital.
What they don't want you to hear. Doctors hate me. Because they're lazy.
ER nurses hate him even more because they're liars and cheaters.
That's right. And also, like, they suck at Rainbow Six Siege. They're not as cool as me. They don't dress as cool. No, not all nurses are cool, even though some of them do stupid ass dances for TikTok. If you got time to do dances for TikTok, then you must live in like one of those states where they have like no one coming in that hospital, you know?
They're in Florida, where Ron DeSantis invented antibodies treatments. So everyone's just in and out in 1 hour.
Or those nurses that do that, they got the right idea. They're like, we don't give a fuck anymore. They're just going to let them all die.
Is Ron DeSantis dead, by the way? He hasn't been seen in public in a couple weeks. What's going on with that?
He has mono. He got mono from his wife. No, I don't. Yeah, that's been a big thing. His wife got diagnosed with breast cancer. I don't know if it's like really bad or it's like the kind where you like get lotion, like when my grandfather had skin cancer. I don't know. I don't know anything about cancer.
Enough. I will fuck him to cheer him up.
But I don't know. Yeah, it's been a big thing back and forth between the liberals and conservatives is, you know, if he has COVID or not. I don't know. I feel like if he had really bad COVID, we'd have heard about it, but you never know, I guess.
I just assume that he's
but he's
all
vaccinated,
boosted
so
up.
it doesn't.
Yeah. I'm more interested in Bolsonaro going back to the hospital for his poop disease.
His blockages are going to kill him, man. He's going to just get he's just going to have a fistula form that just takes him finally.
Dude, imagine
most resilient man.
Dude, imagine like in his eyes, like what he thinks is happening, he's facing down against his greatest enemy. Like Lula is his greatest enemy. Like that's his nemesis to him. And it's not just like a personal contest, but it's a civilizational, like existential fight. It's like, is Brazil going to be based, or are gay college professors going to run the show? And during that like life and death struggle, you're like, oh, can you take me to the hospital so they can wipe me?
I just want to know what the fuck are his turds like? Does he have the blob inside him? Like, why does he keep getting like this ancient clay within his intestines? It's just like, oh, gotta get another NG tube, bud. Like, he just needs, at this point, he just needs a colostomy bag.
Yeah.
Straight up. And he might end up with one. I'm being serious. He might end up with a colostomy bag or two. Ileostomy bag.
One for me to drink.
He's got a colostomy duffel bag.
He's gonna
that gets picked apart in an emu attack, and he's just leaking shit everywhere.
Double fisting. He's like,
but you know what? We're not helpless here, listener. If you were hearing this right now, you can help. Please donate your shit to Comandante Jair Bolsonaro. Please send it care of Chapo Trap House in a paper envelope. And if you have like a cat or dog or something, send some of their shit too. You never know.
Stool transplants are state of the art medical technology.
Yeah, like they talk about the Brazilian butt lift. But we need the Brazilian turd transfer.
It's like a concrete mixer pouring out into his asshole.
You just add water. You mix it in. And then it goes. They have the NG tube goes to his nose to his stomach to remove. It sucks everything out. We need to do the other way for using those tubes where you give them food. We're going to just put straight poop into his stomach and intestines. Yeah. So he's not a feeding tube, but it's just poop. Like, dog, He's really responding to this poop drip.
Yeah, we're doing like quantitative easing for poop with him. Like we're increasing the M2 shit supply in his stomach. Like I want to I don't even know what you do with him because okay, the guy who stabbed him obviously didn't finish the job, but really fucked his life up. Like really bad, clearly.
Yeah, I'd rather just die from that stabbing than have to keep going to the hospital for my poop nightmare.
He loves it. He loves going to the hospital. It's his favorite thing.
He gets the juicy juice, and he loves the terrible food.
Yeah, he's excited about all that Jello.
He loves the TikTok dances.
I get. Are they gonna have to put a soft serve machine where he just cranks something from his ass?
No, like I said, he honestly might end up with just a colostomy or ileostomy or both, depending on where it's at. I don't know all the details, but that would be something they might do. So he gets to walk around with his bags all the time, like Edward Poop Hands. No, I don't. I feel I'm not hating on anyone with those bags because it sucks. But for Jair Bolsonaro, he deserves it.
Oh yeah, no, and he didn't. Yeah, he has those. He has to have it because of what a bad guy he is. Like that guy stabbed him because he's a bad guy.
You know, his stupid ass would let that shit overfill, and they just keep popping, just bursting all over him.
My God! Yeah,
rolls over and it goes like a whoopee cushion, but it's actual shit that comes out.
I hope Lula wins and institutes for Brazil one of those plastic bag bans, but only for colostomy bags. So he has to have a cloth colostomy bag.
It's like an old lunch bag that you let sit there too long. You pick it up, it just falls through. Fuck.
He's going to the store and he's like, "Oh my God, I forgot my reusables," and he's juggling his own shit in those shitty recycled plastic or paper bags.
Some guy comes up and stabs him again, but just in the bag, so it goes everywhere. A slitting knife, like a stucco knife.
There we go. We'll leave
but seriously,
that.
Good luck to Jair Bolsonaro. We're rooting for you in your election, just like we did last time. You rock, dude. We love you.
We want you to keep going to the hospital for 20 more years.
Yeah. You're the man.
Surviving COVID 30 times.
We love you. We love your sons, especially. Maybe even more than you.
You have the world's most amazing smile.
You're beautiful. We don't think that bald guy fucked your wife. That's a nasty rumor.
No one thinks that.
No one thinks that. No.
And if it did happen, Rod Dreher will find video of it, and he will not get the image out of his head.
And he's like, "Where's the dildos?"
There's no ass play in this. What the fuck?
This guy sucks.
It's just heterosexual sex. Get the fuck out of here.
Yeah.
I'm not writing about this. This shit isn't Weimar America. I'm not writing about this shit.
Squinting at his monitor going, "Oh, missionary." I know I'm Catholic, but
yeah, someone's got to get a dildo up their ass for it to be Weimar. For it to be worth writing about in the American Conservative, we got to have some piss play. We got to have Jair's colostomy bag exploding on someone. And,
if he gets
and we need
colostomy,
bearded muscle men getting their asses stretched.
What about one of those into a stoma? One of Jair's stomas? I bet Jair would love that.
I like just going back to Rod a bit. I like that it's like he's like that's what he thinks of when he thinks of the Weimar Republic, not like
hyperinflation
or political instability, but he's like, colon stimulation.
Sounding.
The main thing, sounding, all the urethra play, all the stuff we think about. When we think about the Weimar Republic, and it's I've never related those two. Those aren't the things I think about when I think of the Weimar Republic.
I mean, look, if there are muscular, bald, bearded, kind of daddy men playing with their assholes and pimping out their wives, that's a sign of fascism, and Rod will be on the case to document every single step on the march to our new Fourth Reich.
They should make him a January 6th investigator to see if any January 6th attendees did that.
Dude, any of the January 6th insurrection offenders do ass stuff. I need videos and pictures. Send them to Rod.
Can we do
Rodney the Rod?
Can we do a deposition where they do it to me to see if they really do this stuff?
Just to demonstrate it.
He gets on the legal defense team. Your Honor, my client could not have done sounding. I tried to put a paper clip in there, and I could only, it was not taken.
Shot right out. It shot out my eye. I have proof. I have the receipts from the ER visit.
Well, Happy New Year, gentlemen. I'd like to thank the two great healthcare heroes of our time, Jair Bolsonaro and Andrew Hudson.
The only two.
And
also ThankMedical.
And please subscribe to episode 1, the best podcast there is.
Absolutely. Episode 1 just did a Q&A.
If you don't, then you don't give a shit about healthcare people.
Yeah, you hate healthcare.
That's right.
Honestly, though, I mean, we've always said the fans hold us back.
Yeah, I've been saying you should ditch those guys for a while.
Well, thank you for having me on, boys.
It's our
Cheers.
pleasure.
It's always awesome.
All right, till next time, fellas.
Bye-bye.
Till next time.